You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari. As a successful motivational speaker and trusted life coach, Nancy knows how you can live the life you want regardless of the challenges you face. Although she's legally blind, Nancy's mission is to inspire others to overcome obstacles and live life full out. Call in at 800-333-0001 to ask Nancy for advice on topics such as relationships, finances, business, health, and more. Just call 800-333-0001. Once again, that's 800-333-0001. And now, here's Nancy.
Welcome to the Living Full Out Show. I am Nancy Solari, and I'm excited to be here with you today. And we're going to be talking about forgiveness. It is a topic that for some is heavy because it's hard. It's hard to ask for forgiveness or give somebody forgiveness from your heart if they've done something wrong to you. And we're going to talk about that in various layers. We also have a very inspirational guest coming up, Missy Jenkins, and she was actually shot when she was in high school, and she went on to forgive her shooter. Believe that. It's amazing. Just the power of being able to forgive somebody and move forward in your life in a positive way. We're going to be taking your calls as well. Again, that number is 800-333-0001. Again, 800-001. And now we're going back to the show. I'm Nancy Solari. And again, we want to hear from you. If you have any questions about today and you want motivation and you want to be able to move forward in your life, then give us a call, because it's important that you know that you're not alone, especially with today's topic about forgiveness. You know, wondering how you can take that step, how you can go about reaching out to somebody, that olive branch, how to do that, how to communicate and express your feelings. If you are moved by today's show, or if you have any questions, do give us a call, or you can reach out to us via email at connect@livingfullout.com. Again, connect@livingfullout.com. If you want to listen to today's show again, go to livingfullout.com, click on the radio show tab, and all of our episodes will be waiting there for you, including today's show. Now, my producer's telling me we do have a caller on the line. We're going to go reach out to them and say hello. Hello, welcome to the show. Hi.
Hi, my name is... Hi, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm good. Thank you for calling in. How can I help you today?
So, recently, my girlfriend has been struggling with some anxiety and depression issues, and she's also been going through some big life changes. And so I'm just kind of wondering, what are some of the best ways that I can go about, supporting her in the best way possible?
You know, I love that you're asking this question. Obviously, you love her. You care about her, right? Has she done anything recently that concerns you, that would harm herself or anybody else?
Not that I can remember, no.
Okay. That's the first sign you want to look for. And if that's not the case, then that's good. You want to also remind her every day that she is loved by you and others, and even help her to, on a daily basis, find a way to laugh, find a way to find the inspiration of every day. Is there something that she enjoys that you could remind her about every day, like maybe a song, something you could fill the household up with, or, maybe even call her or leave her a voicemail or shoot her a text? Have you done some of those things?
Yeah, I've really been trying to call her and make sure that I'm talking to her every day.
Okay, and when you call her, what do you say?
What do I say?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, usually when I call her, I usually just try and see how her day is going. I kind of let her talk and tell me about her day.
Perfect.
That's kind of what I try and do the most amount of time.
Perfect. That's exactly what I was hoping you would say. So you try to be a sounding board for her, right? Now, it's important that you be honest with her, though. If you ever feel like the connection is dropping, I promise you she would rather know. See, when someone's depressed, they're kind of in it. They're kind of in their stuff. They're in this dark place. And it's hard for them sometimes to know if it's hurting another person. So while you're going along and you're motivating her and you're checking in and you're being that sounding board, when a day comes along where you feel disconnected from her, where maybe her depression is washing over onto you and making you concerned, you sad, you want to come to her and say, hey, listen, I don't want to not be connected to you and I feel distant. Because she would rather know that so that she can pull you close. Because it's kind of like you save each other, right? That's what a relationship is for. You're strength for each other when needed. Have you ever turned to her when you felt that disconnection? Are you there?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
Have you?
I missed the question.
Yeah, have you ever turned to her when you felt that disconnection?
No, not that I can remember.
Okay. Well, again, that might be something you want to consider. And again, it's only if it comes up for you. The reason why I say that is you want to make sure that your relationship maintains its depth and that it doesn't, stay at just the surface level. Not that it does, but you know what I mean? Sometimes, a lot of times when we're calling somebody and we try to be the energy for them, the positivity for them, it's kind of at that surface level to keep them higher, right? But where the depth and the growth of a relationship comes in is when you guys are in it together, in that deep place. And deep can be positive and negative, but at least it just comes from a place of honesty. But I'm proud of you. You're doing great. Be that sounding board for her, and that's the best thing you can possibly be. But thank you so much for calling in.
Yeah, thank you so much. This is really great to hear. Thank
Oh, you're very welcome, and have a wonderful rest of your day, and let us know how things go. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
I love that he called in for that very reason, because when somebody is depressed, when they're sad, when they feel like they have this dark cloud over them, it is hard to be motivated. It is hard to sometimes pull somebody out of that, and to be able to turn to this show and ask for assistance. That's what we're here for. Now we're going to go back to the phone lines again and check in with another caller. Hello, welcome to the Living Full Out Show.
Hey, Nancy.
Hi, thank you for calling in. How can I help you today?
So recently I've gotten in an argument with my parents. I go to school, college, about 8 hours away from my home, and I don't really get to see my parents as often as I'd like because I don't have a vehicle, and they can't really come get me because it costs a lot. And my significant other, his family lives about 2 hours away from us, and they come and get us all the time because it's close and convenient. And my parents have been getting mad because I don't come see them as often. I don't really think they understand that unless they're going to come get me, there's no way I can get to them. And they've been kind of doing like a guilt trip with me about not coming to see them and my niece and the family. And it's been really straining our relationship. And I really don't know what I can do to get across to them. It's not as easy to come home as it is to my significant others.
Yeah, and you know what? So what you want to do is you want to consider ways in which you can spend some quality time with them. They just want to feel special. They want to not feel as though you're leaving them in the dust into a new life. And every parent wants to hold on to their children. They want you to grow up, but they don't want you to grow up, right? And especially they know that one day their little girl's going to meet the right guy and go on and get married, start their own family. And I think it's also maybe a fear of, oh my gosh, have we lost her to his family, right? It's just a natural possible concern that some parents will have. So you want to think about how you can give them quality time without being physically there. One way would be if you have perhaps like an iPhone. Do you have an iPhone by chance?
Yeah.
Okay. Do one of them have an iPhone?
Nope.
Nope. Okay. Well, maybe that's a purchase on their side for them. Okay. And there's other ways you can do this too. But an iPhone, you can do what's called FaceTime, where you can FaceTime each other. Or you could use Skype or some other way to see each other. Calling someone on the phone is great. I talk to a lot of people on the phone and you can still hear their voice, but sometimes you miss seeing them. You want to be involved with, what are they wearing? Where are they going out? Maybe showing them something personal to you. I don't know what that would be. Maybe it's a card. Maybe it's, maybe you buy a new car. Maybe it's, a gift that you got. They just want to be a part of seeing what's going on, as well as hearing your voice. You also might write them from time to time a personal note. Maybe it's a handwritten note. Maybe it's an email. And letting them know just how much you love them, how much you care about them. And I would personally send a separate note to your mom and your dad and give them kind of a recap of why you're so proud to be their daughter and the woman that you're becoming today, and maybe reflect back on a special memory unique to the two of you. Can you do some of those things to maybe let them know that, hey, I love you, I'm still here? Those would be some things I would try. Have you tried those?
The Skype, yes, but definitely not the letters, which is definitely worth a try.
I would do that. I would do that. And then the other thing is, start putting some future plans out there. Give them something to look forward to. So if you can't go home every weekend, that's understandable. But they just want to know, okay, when are we going to see her next? Okay, when are we going to see her next? Right? So you got to give them something to look forward to. And when you do have that date on the calendar, have some special quality time. But if you can do that, I promise you, they will calm down and they'll trust that you'll be back around. Okay? But thank you so much for calling in, and we hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye. And so when we come back, we're going to be joined by Missy Jenkins. She's going to be telling her very inspirational story. Stay tuned. We'll be back.
You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari. A professional motivational speaker, Nancy can help you overcome obstacles and start living full out. Call in with questions live at 800-333-0001. Once again, that's 800-333-0001. And now, here's Nancy.
Welcome back to the Living Full Out Show. I am Nancy Solari, and today we're talking about forgiveness. Now, our inspirational guest for today truly is a perfect example of forgiving someone when it's impossible to think that it could ever be. And I'm going to share that with you, but I'm going to keep you on the hook there because I'm going to stay tuned for that to see what I mean by that. But I'd like to welcome Missy Jenkins. She was actually shot in her high school way back in 1997 when another teenager came in and shot many people in her lobby. Unfortunately, some did die, and she did live, but she was very much injured. She's paralyzed from the chest down, but she has not let that stop her from living her life full out in a big way. So I'd like to welcome Missy to the show.
Hi, thank you.
Hi. You know what? You are just such a miracle, honestly. You are a bright light in this world, and I can't imagine, God, the universe, whatever, saved you that day because you had this message to share, and I know you feel that as well.
I definitely do. I really think that everything could have turned out in a different way if I hadn't been, close to God, and God, I really felt like God was there for me that day for sure.
Absolutely. Now, I know it's hard to go back in time because it's a painful experience to have gone through. But can you share with us what happened that day? I know it was December 1st, 1997. You were just at the beginning of school in your prayer circle. Can you share with us what happened next?
Sure. I was in a prayer circle with about 30 or 40 people. It was a very small school, so we all knew everybody. My twin sister was also with me that morning as well. And we all got into the prayer circle and prayed just like we normally did every morning. And that right after we said amen, I had just enough time to walk to the middle of the lobby and on the way to get my backpack for my very first class. And as I was walking, I heard the first shot, and that was when a 14-year-old boy had pulled a 22 out of his backpack. And I never saw him, but the very first thing I did see was a girl get shot in the head and fall down to the ground. And as I stood and looked at her, I kept thinking to myself, it was just a joke. It wasn't real. This was something not common happening in a school. Unfortunately, it's common today, but then it was not. And as I stood and stared at her, waiting for her to get up, I could hear the gunshot, but I wasn't familiar with guns at all at the time. The sound to me sounded more like firecrackers is what it sounded like. And so just trying to make sense of everything as I stood there and hearing the pops, I was shot. I was hit in the left shoulder, but at the time I didn't know that. When I was hit, my entire body just kind of went numb, and it was almost like fainting is what it felt like. And as I landed on the ground, my twin sister, who knew what was happening, she crawled over and hovered over me until he was done shooting. And that's when she finally shared with me what was happening and that he had a gun, and that at that point, that's when I knew I'd been shot. I also was noticing that I couldn't feel my stomach at the moment, not my legs at the time. But as time kind of went on, I then was also realizing that I had been shot. My twin sister and I were both scared. We didn't know what that meant as far as me not being able to feel anything. But after after a while, I started to get, very tired, and a teacher that I had at the time came over to me, and she knelt down beside me, and she began to pray. And I then at that point got very scared, and I started questioning my teacher and asking her if I was going to die. And she finally told me that she felt like, that I was going to be fine. But then I told her I knew I was paralyzed because I couldn't feel anything.
Well, it's there's so much going on in that moment, and trying to comprehend. I feel that, even through the radio today, I can feel what you must have been going through in that time, not even knowing that you got shot, really, just wondering what's going on.
Exactly, yeah.
Did you, and you didn't see the shooter, when all was said and done and you're laying there and you can't feel your stomach and your teacher is praying, and I know probably other people are moaning in pain.
Right.
I know you're a Christian. You were there for a prayer circle. At that moment, what are you thinking? What do you do?
I was scared at first, and I was very worried. But after my teacher prayed for me, all of a sudden I just kind of had this sense of calmness. I knew what was happening to me at that moment. And even though I was witnessing some very horrific things around me, I was also had this sense of feeling of that I was going to be fine and that I was going to be okay. And at the moment, being paralyzed, when everything just kind of came to an understanding, once I got to the hospital and they started quickly, just kind of giving me fluids and running tests on me, and once even I got into the X-ray and they started explaining my injury to me, I was at that moment really understanding and realizing how blessed I was to still be alive. With the bullet going through my left shoulder, it was a .22, so it bounced around in my body, and even though it hit my lung and it hit my spinal cord and exited out the right side of my back without even going through the back of my shirt, which was kind of amazing to me, they found the bullet in my shirt. Wow. I was definitely realizing at that moment that I was going to be okay, and that being paralyzed was nothing compared to being gone. I was actually finding that I was getting a second chance at life.
You were one of the lucky ones, huh? Now,
exactly, that I was still alive.
You were still alive, exactly. Now, I'm curious, that day, did the shooter, obviously he did a couple pops, couple shots, and then he did rounds, but what happened to him? Where did he,
He eventually, at that moment, once he kind of came to and realized what he was doing, he eventually then set the gun down. And we didn't have a resource officer. We didn't have anything like that in the school system at the time. And so the principal and the guidance counselor, once he put the gun down, went and grabbed him and took him to the guidance office until the police came. Mm-hmm. And so he actually put the gun down himself. He'd gone through a lot of problems such as bullying, and I really think that at that moment when he made the decision to bring the gun to school, he was driven to the point of just kind of madness in a way. He didn't know what he was doing and the impact that he was going to cause. He honestly thought that bringing a gun to school would cause people to be afraid and to respect him, and that everything was going to be fine.
Wow. Well, when we come back, Missy, I want you to stay on with me here. We're going to go to a quick commercial break, but when we come back, we're going to continue your journey of recovery and where you are today in your life, which is amazing. So everyone stay tuned. We'll be back with Missy Jenkins telling us her story. This is the Living Full Out Show. We'll be right back after this break.
You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari. As a trusted life coach, Nancy will help you overcome setbacks and embrace all life has to offer. Call in with questions live at 800-333-0001. Once again, that's 800-333-0001. And now, here's Nancy.
Thank you for joining us. This is the Living Full Out Show. I am Nancy Solari, and we are continuing our interview today. We're talking about forgiveness, and our interview today is with Missy Jenkins, and she's talking to us about when she was in high school back in 1997, how she got shot when a 14-year-old boy came in and shot at many different people during their prayer circle. And Missy, I'd like to welcome you back to our show.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sharing with us about how, you'd been shot, in your shoulder as well as it had hit where? Your spinal cord and where else?
And it hit my lung as
And
well.
your lung.
But it came out the right side of my back and didn't even go through the back of my shirt. Was one of the amazing things of the fact that I didn't have to have a surgery to have the bullet even removed. So it was almost like God directed the bullet.
That is amazing. That is amazing. Now, you had feared laying there in the lobby that day. You couldn't feel your stomach. You were concerned that you were paralyzed. And when you were at the hospital, they had ran tests. They had, checked out to see, where the wounds were. But what you had suspected was true, and you were paralyzed from the chest down. And
Right.
and I'm just wondering, you had suspected it, but when you got that final confirmation, what did that feel like? What was that moment like?
Well, I expected to be upset, and I expected to think that my life would be over. But I had this feeling of, you're going to be okay. You're going to be fine. You are still here, and you are going to live life. And that to me was just an overwhelming feeling that beat the fact that I was paralyzed. And I had this inside feeling that everything was going to be okay, that this was nothing compared to being gone. And I was getting a second chance at life was the feeling. And I was glad that I had that feeling. It could have been worse. And I think that feeling pushed me to really be where I am today.
Now, you had to rely on your arms for everything, and you had to learn how to do simple things that we take for granted, like putting our clothes on. What were some of the things that you had to learn after the accident?
That was definitely one of the things I had to learn. It took me 45 minutes to put my clothes on for the first time, and that was a struggle. But as I kept trying and as time went on, it got easier and easier. And I realized that if I kept my mind to it and I kept trying, that things would get easier. Even the simplest thing of picking something up off the floor because of my balance was scary to me. But I knew that if I kept trying, that it would get easier and easier as time would go on. And I would meet struggles every day, but I knew that I could overcome them if I wanted to live my life.
Now, everybody, I want us to really take that in because, again, we take the little things like getting dressed for granted. But here you were, you're paralyzed from the chest down. You can't feel your legs. It's not like you can step into your pants. You kind of have to wiggle around on a bed to get them on or something, right?
Right.
To make that happen. Now, you were touched by the amount of people that were there for you. You got letters, you got packages, you got all these reminders of people who were there for you, reminding you to keep on going. And why do you think there was such an outpour of support?
I think that in the middle of something tragic like that, God sent me so many people all over the world to show me that there were people pushing for me. There were people praying for me, that there were people that knew that I could do it. And I kind of had that feeling of, when I received in one day 600 letters and 45 packages, and that was the most, from people all over the world that didn't know me, all of the support showed me that there were people there behind me and that I was not doing this alone. I didn't have to go through this alone. I had family and friends there for me every day. The people in my town built a wheelchair accessible addition onto my home. I was given a wheelchair accessible van. I was shown so much support that it reminded me that I wasn't in this alone, that even though it was a struggle that I felt like I was carrying, that there were people there that were trying to help me, make things easier. And I felt like God was showing me that, you could do this. Look at all the support you have. You aren't alone.
Well, it's interesting. I am legally blind, and I have a white cane, several actually, and sometimes I use them, sometimes I don't. And I know it's taken me a lot of time to use that cane and be okay standing next to that cane, knowing what it represents. How was being in a wheelchair, getting used to the wheelchair for you?
Well, for me, it it was an obstacle to get used to. I mean, it was something that you know I felt different with when around school, but I think it was only at the time me mostly. I was not noticing it or others were not noticing as much as maybe I would. So when I realized that, then I tried not to realize that. You know, I tried not to use it as a barrier that was right there in front of me, even though I was noticing it. Honestly, others were not. And even my husband today will tell me that, you know, sometimes he, you know, I guess forgets in a way, if that makes any sense.
That actually
But
does
that's
make sense.
not
That does.
something-
Yeah.
that's not something that he notices. It's not the first thing. It's me.
It's you. And I'm so glad that you said that, because for any of us who may need to enter a new phase of our lives, a cane, a wheelchair, a walker, you name it, initially we think it, you know, is a flaw or defines us or something, but it fades away, and your personality, your spirit is what people see. Now, let's
Oh,
talk.
yeah.
Now let's talk about that spirit. Let's talk about that very forgiving spirit. You did something that is extraordinary. And, you know, in a lot of these shooting scenarios, usually the gunman does die. You know, they kill themselves or something
Right.
happens in police shootout or something. But this gunman lived, and you chose to go see him. You chose to have that forgiveness conversation. I guess if you could share with us how you even got to that point and what happened that day.
Well, I honestly knew that being angry and mad was not going to make me walk. It wasn't going to change what happened that day. It wasn't going to bring anyone back. And I knew that being angry was not going to be something that would even be about me. I was living, I was happy to still be alive, and letting that burden continue to be in my heart was just something I knew I couldn't do. So I chose to forgive, and that forgiveness even brought me to be able to face him and to even go and learn about why he did what he did. What would he have rather have? What was the choice that he wished he would have made instead of that choice he made that day to bring the gun to school? And I felt like it was something I could do to help others, to help prevent something like this from happening. I felt like I could learn from him, and that, you know, him being one of the few shooters still alive, it was something important I felt like I had to do, especially since God had given me the ability to actually get up and speak in front of other people. And that was something before this happened that I wouldn't have ever done or would have ever thought of doing. So forgiveness.
I'm just
brought me there.
curious. I'm just curious, though, because you had that rare opportunity to get those answers. Why did he do it?
He basically had mentioned that, you know, he was made fun of a lot. He thought that bringing this gun to school would help people respect and fear him, and he never thought that, I guess, in the whole delusion of doing this, that it would turn out the way it did. And I think that he wished that he would have actually asked for help, would have asked someone to listen to him. He didn't have someone there that was listening to him. He felt like no one would listen to him. And so he chose to bring the gun to school, thinking that people would back off, would leave him alone. And it was, now he definitely obviously realizes that's the worst decision that he could have ever made in his life, that he wished he would have confined his one and asked for help instead of taking on all of this on his own. And, you know, I think a lot of people take on their burdens on their own and not ask for help. And that's basically what he did. And he wished that he would have done that instead of making this choice that has ruined, you know, a lot of lives, including his own.
Well, again, amazing that you were able to get that clarity, that you were able to kind of put closure, a little bit more closure to that day. And you went on to thrive. I mean, you're married, you have kids, you're speaking, you're an author. And why do you feel that you were able to forgive? Why do you feel that where did you get the strength from?
I think that I really honestly feel like God gave me that strength and bring me all the support that He did and just the seeing the abilities I had after this happened. You know, I may have lost the ability to walk, but then I started gaining the ability to share this message to others and let them know that, you know, there's other choices whenever you're faced with situations in your life that you feel like you can't handle, that bringing a gun to school is not what he had to do. That even though I'm in a wheelchair, that I don't have to give up. There's a lot of messages that all of a sudden unfolded in front of my eyes that I felt like I could share, and it, you know, I felt like I had the ability to share that and to give others hope that, you know, if you're faced with bullying and you need help, that there's people out there that will help you. You don't have to resort to making the decision that he made. And I think that seeing that I was able to share those messages whenever I was super shy before this, I would have never gotten up in front of people.
You're not shy now.
The ability to do that,
Yeah.
it was amazing. So, you know, I felt like it was kind of like my purpose in life to share these things.
We talk a lot about purpose at Living Full Out, and you are living on purpose. And I want to thank you very much for being on our show today. And everybody, that was Missy Jenkins sharing her very, very intimate story about being shot yet forgiving her shooter. And thank you so much for being on the show. And everybody, when we come back from the next break, we'll be taking your calls. And again, this is the Living Full Out show. That was Missy Jenkins. Thank you, Missy. A large part of what it means to live full out is to forgive others and yourself. It'll free you so you're able to propel yourself higher and be able to achieve the goals and dreams that you wish. Don't let the negative experiences, the tragedies, the crises, even in some cases our disability, hold you back and make you feel as though you can't achieve what you want to. When you forgive yourself, when you forgive others, you'll be able to step forward, embrace what you want in life, and live full out.
As a certified life coach, Nancy can help you to overcome challenges and start living full out. Call in with questions live at 800-333-0001. Once again, that's 800-333-0001. And now, here's Nancy.
All right, here we are, last segment of the show. Can't believe it, it goes so fast. But today we're talking about forgiveness. And our last guest, Missy, wow, to forgive the gunman that shot you, who paralyzed you, that is a strength that we all have. We do. We have the ability to look at ourselves today, tomorrow, and say, gosh, who am I holding on to? Who am I angry at? Maybe it's myself. How can I let go of that pain? How can I forgive that person or myself so that I can set myself free to live full out? That's what the journey of life is about. We're going to roll along in life and we're going to gather all this pain and all these stresses and all these bumps in the road that are going to throw us off. But we have the strength inside us to put us back on course, to put us into a place of peace versus pain. It's just about taking control and saying, I'm not going to let myself be angry at that person or at myself. I'm going to forgive. And that's what today's show is all about. We're now going to go to our phone lines again and check in with one of our callers. Hello, welcome to the Living Full Out show.
Hi.
Hi, thank you so much for calling in. How can we assist you today?
Hi, yes, I have a question. I recently went through a breakup, and I found out that he was using me, and that really, really angered me. I don't want this anger to consume me, and it's so hard, and I don't know what to do.
You know what? I feel you. I feel you on that. I can actually still tell that the pain is there. It's still very raw. We can only control our actions. We can't control somebody else's. When somebody uses us, when somebody cheats on us, when somebody steals from us, we always have to put that into perspective that that's on them. That's their flaw. That's their cross that they have to live with their entire life. That's who they are. That's not who you are. And sometimes we have to experience dating, meeting, spending time with these people to recognize the gratitude that we have for the positive relationships in our life. What did you learn most? Now, granted, you dated this person for how long?
We dated for 2 years.
Okay, for 2 years. And in that 2 years, did you have some good times?
Yeah, we did.
Okay, you know, some Friday nights, some trips that you had a good time. You were living life full out. You were having a good time. Now, granted, that person was, you know, using you, and again, we now know that's on them. Without having experienced that, you would never have had those good times. So we don't want to erase that from our life, right? Because you had laughs. You created some good memories with that person and other people. Right?
Yes.
Okay. Now let's talk about the using part. When you found out that that person was using you, were you more angry at them or were you more angry at yourself?
I think I was more angry at myself because I should have seen it coming, but I didn't.
Well, should you have? I mean, you wanna be careful not to should yourself, right? We could have, we should have, because you can only go through life with the knowledge you have at the time, right? We don't have a crystal ball, so you don't want to be hard on yourself. You were just in love and you were just living life and having a good time. And that's all the information you had at the time. And that's kind of the joke that life can plan us sometimes, right? We don't have that ability to see into the future. So I want you to be a little bit easier on yourself because you could have done nothing more. You should have done nothing more. All you had was the information you had at the time. Now, going into the future, you have an opportunity to say, okay, when I meet somebody in the future, I want to make sure that we have similar values in this way, X, Y, and Z. I want to make sure that I maybe ask a few questions about their past relationships or their short-term or long-term goals. So see, that relationship was a part of you maturing, you growing. Do you see that?
Yes, I do.
Believe it or not, and I'm not saying you go and send that person a thank you note or a card, but believe it or not, they shaped you into who you are today, a stronger version of you. You have more clarity today in what you want in a partner than you did then. What you have to be careful to do is to let that pain sit in you. You want to set it free. You want to say, you know what? You did the best you could. But now, that relationship doesn't define my future. It doesn't dictate my future. Woohoo! Moving on. Right?
Yes, sure.
Don't let it keep you in pain. Don't let it keep you up at night. Don't let it control you any more than it already has. It's a new day. There's new relationships coming, and go grab them. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for calling in. And I want to thank everybody who listened to today's show. We'll be back next week. And to my entire Living Full Out production team here in the studio, we have Debbie and Sam and Mindy and Rich and everybody who comes here every week to help you stay motivated. We will be back next week and looking forward to living full out together. Have a wonderful day. Stay tuned. We'll see you soon.